Hello, and welcome to the Office of Youth Programs and Compliance Required Training for Regulation 01.25.18 for programs and activities that involve the participation of minors. This training applies to the vast scope of programs and activities with minors that occur through NC State University. It is designed to supplement the program-specific training necessary for your role. It should be used in conjunction with the Youth Program Coordinator Handbook, which provides additional details for risk management and safety. All resources referenced can be found at go.ncsu.edu/protection of minors. Minors are defined as individuals under the age of 18 who are not current NC State students. The terminology used throughout this training is intended to include all programs and activities that fall under the regulation. Many times, these will simply be referred to as programs. Additional definitions can be found in the regulation. This training covers the topics required by the minors regulation and meets the training components for compliance with the regulation. Be prepared to take notes and follow up on items that need clarification. My contact information is listed here if you have any questions. Minors regulation training is required annually, and the date of this training will be recorded upon completion. You may be asking yourself a couple of questions. First, why do I have to take this course? NC State is committed to supporting a safe environment. The course is required annually and meets the compliance requirement for covered individuals per the regulation. Child abuse is prevalent. When it happens, it can cause a lifetime of pain and suffering for the individual, as well as damage to an institution's reputation, financial stability, and insurability. We provide this training to help prevent child abuse in our programs and to identify and report child abuse per North Carolina law. You may also be wondering, well, how does this relate to my work? All employees should be aware of their responsibilities and boundaries in working with minors. The information presented contributes to our mindful attention to providing a safe environment and experience for the minors in our care. The first training requirement is to review applicable university policies, procedures, and rules regarding this regulation. If you have not already, take the time to read through the minors regulation, REG 01.25.18. Review the Youth Program Coordinator Handbook. Reference the resources at go.ncsu.edu/protection of minors. Review your own programs, rules, and guidelines for interacting with minors both in person and online. Review your program's process for incident reports, behavioral issues, and accidents. Review your program's crisis communication plan and know your program's policy for handling disciplinary problems. The next requirement is behavioral expectations. Appropriate conduct must be followed by all adults working or volunteering with minors through the university. Offenders operate under conditions where they have access to minors, privacy with minors, and can control the situation. The boundaries are in place to reduce these conditions and prevent abuse. Those working with minors in NC State programs or activities shall not have contact with minors in seclusion. There should be 2 or more covered individuals present during activities when minors are present. This expectation regarding no one-on-one interactions with minors in seclusion may need further review in your program practices. This expectation refers to both online and in-person interactions. Please talk with your leadership and refer to the handbook for best practices. The next one is that we shall not enter a minor's room, bathroom facility, or similar area without another covered individual in attendance. Shall not share accommodations with minors, with the exception of minors' parents or guardians sharing accommodations with their own children. Shall not engage in abusive conduct of any kind toward or in the presence of a minor. Shall not strike, hit, administer corporal punishment to, or touch in an inappropriate or illegal manner any minor. Next, we shall not provide alcohol or illegal drugs to any minor. Covered individuals also must not provide prescription drugs or any medication to a minor unless specifically authorized in writing by the parent or legal guardian as being required for the minor's care. In case of emergency, call 911. We shall not use a personal vehicle to transport a minor or use personal text, email, or social media to communicate with minors outside of the official program. Avoiding the use of personal vehicles and avoiding the use of personal electronic communications are expectations that may need further review in your program practices. Contact your leadership or the Office of Youth Programs and Compliance for clarification. Other inappropriate conduct examples may include taking pictures of minors or sharing them through personal social media. Any pictures should only be used for program-specific purposes. Continuing on our list, shall not expose minors to sexually explicit materials such as pornography, shall not engage in any other conduct deemed inappropriate by the Youth Programs Office. Now we'll look at risk management best practices, procedures, and guidelines for all program activities. Identify areas of risk and structure activities to avoid or mitigate the risk. Typical areas of concern include transportation, locker rooms and restrooms, electronic communication, health, medical conditions and allergic reactions, labs and fieldwork, overnight stays, and transitions. Good decisions and attentive supervision can reduce the risk in these areas significantly. Refer to the Youth Program Handbook for best practices. Next, we will look at risk management, best practices, procedures, and guidelines for online programs and activities. Be sure to communicate online behavioral expectations with your program personnel, as well as the participants and their parents or legal guardians. Communicate the program expectations so that participants and their parents know exactly what activities and time commitment will be involved. Encourage parents and guardians and participants to notify leadership if something seems out of line with the expectations. Avoid using a personal phone number, email, or social media account to communicate with minors. Use NC State or program-specific platforms that are monitored by multiple program staff. One of the most important guidelines when working with minors is to avoid one-on-one interactions in seclusion. For virtual interactions, have 2 or more program staff present or have at least 3 people involved in any interaction with minors. For example, if your program meets online with minors by appointment, send a virtual meeting link to the participant and their parent or legal guardian. For email correspondence with minors, use or copy an office email account that is monitored by multiple people. Next, we'll take a look at supervision plans for adequate supervision in light of the number and average age of the participants, the program activities, and whether overnight stays are involved. These are the supervision ratios provided by the American Camp Association and should be used for in-person programs and activities. Minors must be supervised throughout the duration of the program or activity. Be sure to avoid distractions while supervising minors. Next, we'll take a look at emergency planning. Depending on your location and program activities, emergency situations may be handled differently. Make sure to know your program's plans for safety in each of these situations. The safety plans, including crisis communication, should be in your Unix Pack Ready plan. Next, we will look at health and first aid. Review this list and the details related to each of these in the Youth Program Coordinator Handbook. Make sure you are aware of your participants' health history, allergies, and medical needs. Monitor participants for symptoms of illness. Inform parents in writing of situations when they will be notified of a participant illness or injury. Document when parents have been contacted or attempts to contact have been made. Maintain records of all health care provided and reports of all incidents requiring medical treatment. Next, we will look at protecting data and privacy. Be intentional about what you collect, how it is used, and who needs the information. Only collect information that is needed for the program or activity. The participant, parent, or guardian should have the right to review, correct, and possibly delete or choose not to provide the requested data. Be transparent about what you collect, how you use it, with whom it's shared, where it is stored, and how it will be deleted or archived. Protect the data from non-necessary use. Limit the individuals who have access to the data. Do not collect ultra-sensitive data, such as Social Security numbers. Highly sensitive data, such as health information, should not be shared via email. The next required training component is child abuse identification and reporting. The information on the upcoming slides may be difficult for some. Please know that there are resources available, and if you need assistance, reach out to the Office of Risk Assessment and we will help. Based on the statistics shown, we know that child abuse is prevalent in the community and exists even in higher education. In looking at recent court cases, there are child abuse cases pertaining to distinguished faculty, a vice president, an athletic trainer, a plumber, a current student, a resident advisor, a campus safety officer, and a coach. None of these cases are from NC State. But our community is not immune. We must be vigilant and look for warning signs and prevent abuse from happening in our programs and activities. The sooner that abuse is identified and reported, the better the chance of recovery for the minor. When we look at the portrait of an abuser, specifically a sexual abuser, most are known to the victim. The abuser could be a family member, a friend of the family, a teacher, older youth, coach, counselor, or another child. As more programs and activities are moving online, cybercrimes against children are rising. Predators meet minors online and begin a relationship to earn trust and then take advantage of the minors. They may pose as someone younger. They may ask a child to send inappropriate pictures or videos, which could then be used to threaten and extort the minors into providing more graphic images. The effects of abuse have long-lasting emotional impact. Abused children can blame themselves, lack trust, and have difficulties forming relationships into adulthood. Often these children feel that they are worthless or damaged at their core. As an adult, this may cause the victim to fall short of reaching his or her potential and puts them more at risk for abusing other children. The effects of child abuse affect not only the individual, but current and future communities. We will now look at the 4 types of child abuse. First is physical abuse, which is non-accidental physical injury, ranging from minor bruises to severe fractures or death as a result of punching, kicking, beating, biting, shaking, throwing, stabbing, choking, hitting, burning, or etc., inflicted by a parent, a caregiver, or other person that has responsibility for a child regardless of intention. The next is emotional abuse. It is a pattern of behavior that impairs a child's emotional development or sense of self-worth, including constant criticism, threats, rejection, or exposure to domestic violence. Neglect is failure to provide for a child's basic needs, including physical, medical, and emotional. Sexual abuse is any sexual act between an adult and a minor or between 2 minors when one exerts power over the other. The risk for sexual abuse in youth activities requires a closer look. Sexual abuse doesn't always involve bodily contact. If an adult engages in any sexual behavior with a child to meet that adult's sexual interests or needs, it is abuse. Indecent exposure, exposure to pornography, exploitation through prostitution or the production of pornographic material, sexting, and other communication in a sexual manner over the phone or internet is abuse. For example, an adult asking a minor to engage in sexual activity, whether in person or virtually, via social media, text, or other electronic means, is a felony and must be reported. Sexual abuse can occur between members of the opposite sex or the same sex. Sexual abuse is a crime, as well as aiding and abetting a sexual offender. That is also a crime. All child sexual abuse is an exploitation of a child's vulnerability and powerlessness, in which the abuser is fully responsible for the actions. Be aware of these possible warning signs. A warning sign is an opportunity for prevention and a chance for you to recognize a risk to a minor. Abused children may display a wide range of physical or emotional symptoms. While these symptoms do not necessarily indicate that child abuse has happened, they combine to raise your level of concern about the situation. Also know that sometimes there are no warning signs. Warning signs differ by the age of the minor. A child is more likely to suffer abuse or neglect in the home than at a camp or program. A child may disclose to a trusted adult that a relative or caregiver is abusing them. If participants disclose personal information that causes alarm, we must report it. During a disclosure, avoid denial, provide a safe environment, reassure the child, and really listen. Do not make assumptions or interrogate, and make no promises. Document any exact quotes and be supportive and non-judgmental. There are 4 questions that you should ask. What happened? Who did this to you? When did this happen? Where were you when this happened? And if you asking any additional questions may contaminate a case, but always report it. Due to the sensitive nature of this type of report, it is important to maintain the highest level of confidentiality and professionalism. Our next training requirement is to review the procedures for reporting incidents of suspected abuse, neglect, or improper conduct. It is a state of North Carolina law that any person or institution who has cause to suspect that any juvenile is abused, neglected, or dependent, or has died as a result of maltreatment, shall report the case to the director of the Department of Social Services in the county where the juvenile resides or is found. If the child is a victim of a violent offense, a sexual offense, or a misdemeanor child abuse, the report must also be made to local law enforcement. It is a Class 1 misdemeanor to know of abuse without reporting it or to prevent such a report. On NC State's campus, you must also notify University Police and the Director of Youth Programs and Compliance. Our last training requirement is to review the guidelines for protecting minors from emotional and physical abuse and neglect. We do this by respecting the rights and dignity of all individuals, embracing diversity, and ensuring all practices and activities are inclusive. Being alert for peer-to-peer misconduct or bullying. There is 0 tolerance for bullying. It must be identified, addressed, and documented. We set expectations for participants that encourage peer-to-peer friendships but discourage intimacy or sexual behavior. And by being alert for indications that seem not right. Be sure you are aware of the procedures in place for reporting and dealing with incidents between children, from the slight to the serious. If you have concerns related to a participant's behavior, another staff member's behavior, or reporting in general, please discuss with your leadership in the Office of Youth Programs and Compliance. Thank you for your attention to the Minors Regulation training. If you are completing the training through Reporter, your next step will be to agree to the personal boundaries for working with minors in NC State programs and activities. The system may take up to 24 hours to record your completion. Once the system updates, you will receive an email certificate. If you are viewing this training outside of Reporter, be sure to follow instructions provided through your program. All the best to you. Thank you.